welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. Here we are rolling up into June, hot and heavy. It is May 31st as the time of this recording, last of May, into the wet and wild summer here in the U.S.
Oh, I don't want to get wet.
You're going to get wet. You're going to get both wet and wild. Alex Navarro, get ready to get wet and wild.
Douse myself in baby powder and just try and stay as dry as I can.
And then you're going to be wet and kind of like a cakey also.
Yeah,
and
that's how I like it.
Get a little cakey Navarro. Brad Shoemaker, are you ready to get more foggy? I don't know what's going on out there. That doesn't sound hot.
What's the June thing? Like, you got May days, you can have a spring fling. It's time for the June balloon.
June bugs. June bug? June bug. Hey, June bug. June, school's over. Everything gets a little more dangerous.
Man, remember summer vacations.
God, summer vacations. I mean, I get the weird thing now where the kids get summer vacations. I feel like most of the world is like, hey, everybody gets a summer vacation, right? It's like, no.
Feel free not to answer. Do you feel any slight degree of contempt for your children when they get 3 months off?
No, just the teachers. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm happy for them. I still remember summer vacation. Like live it up, man. I still remember having a fight with my parents about summer vacation when I was like 13 or 14 or something, being like, and they were like, you need to get your ass out there and get a summer job. And I was like, at 13 or 14 being like, I'm going to be working my whole damn life.
Yep.
Just let me play
This is never
Final
gonna happen
Fantasy
again.
4 for my summer. Just look, all you do is complain about working. Why do you want me to enter that as soon as possible?
Because they had a slight amount of contempt for you getting 3 months off.
Definitely. It was definitely like, get a job or get out here and help with the damn deck. Like, I also didn't want a deck.
Fair. I did have to stain our deck one summer.
Oh God.
Once I got up into the teens, it took about a week.
Right.
My dad was like, this deck is getting restained. You're going to do it.
Oh man. That was listen, there's probably a balance there, but I was definitely an asshole kid being like, it's your goddamn deck. I don't want to do anything. All I want to do is stay up until 4 a.m. playing Civ in the basement. It's my summer. It's my summer. I earned this by dint of being a child. It's mine. I own it. So no, I actually try to protect their summers in ways that are like, you guys sure you want to do like all these things during the summer?
Want to do stuff?
Yeah, stay home, play video games if you want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. You're never going to be able to do it again, really.
This time will never come again.
Yeah, like, is there anything? My wife is pretty good about making sure we have try to make some summer experiences, which I appreciate. Like, hey, we should probably go somewhere for something and do a thing and not just stay in the house all summer. And then it's a real hard pushback from me and from the kids being like, what's wrong with you? Why do you want to go out?
Ugh, it's hot out there.
It's like hot.
Wet.
It's people. There are people out there. Have you been out there?
Ugh.
It's like there's
no thank
other
you.
people out there. No, summer vacation, pro summer vacation. Even if I don't really get to participate. I'll tell you what happens in summer vacation though. Their camp usually starts about a half hour earlier. They do like a day camp for a couple of months. That means I get to sleep in about 10 to 15 minutes later. So that's pretty exciting news for me, like woohoo. They had off on Memorial Day, Friday and Monday, and it was like I woke up in like a panic at like 7:40. It was like, good God, we're late for everything. And then the realization, the one you want to have, where it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have to get them out of the door at all. Like one of those, I'm going to just turn back around and go to sleep. I'll march back up into my bed.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. Of course, then, sat there for about 2 minutes and be like, I'm not falling back asleep. I'm just going to get up.
Convincing your brain that it should fall back asleep is a skill.
I find just don't sleep. you know, and then your body will just pass out at the right time. That's the method. Just I was up too late last night playing Street Fighter 6 and then up too early today, and now I'm more caffeine and Motrin than human. So is Motrin the one you do? I didn't know what to take for a really bad headache, and my wife recommended Motrin, and I said that I don't know which one you're supposed to take.
Oh, that's ibuprofen
for just a headache.
I think that can work.
How about I usually take a leave?
Okay.
I forget.
I looked these up one time, like the differences, and like a Tylenol and Advil.
This is what you come to this podcast for, to hear three old men discuss their pain medications.
Yeah.
Yes, only the soundest pharmacological advice here.
It said migraines right on the Motrin bottle.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Ibuprofen is an anti-inflammatory, so it's good for like joint and muscle pain and stuff.
I'll take that. I'll throw that in there too. Like that's in there as well.
I usually go Tylenol for a headache.
Okay. Is that an analgesic?
Maybe.
You're an analgesic.
Or something called worse.
Or paracetamol if you're across the pond.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I'm not.
Aspirin if you think you're having a heart attack.
Just roll them up into one. Why don't we just put these all into one? We're here to be as inflammatory as possible.
We are pro-inflammatory.
We are inflamed with video games.
The inflames were on the side of my face.
Yes, side of my face, in my hands. I've got joint pains from all the video games.
Wow, spitting some game.
This is as much as I got.
I reached a fun point yesterday. My wife, bless her, she got me chess lessons with a human for my birthday, and I went to my chess, but with my son as well, because I was like, he likes chess. Let's just do this together. Kid freaking smoked me, and and I was proud. I'm super happy. It was like a semi-private lesson, but like he was just like off to the races. And
how many moves?
Not necessarily against me. In like the exercises we were doing, like I just couldn't keep up. My old man brain just couldn't keep up. And I was like, and we were walking home. He's like, you're okay. Like, you know, you're not upset or anything. I was like, of course not. No, like every parent wants their kids to do better. He was like, but if like it weren't me, would you be upset? And I was like, are you saying if I were in a room with a random 11-year-old who was smoking me at chess things, would I feel? I was like, yeah, probably. I probably would feel a little differently if I was in a room full of 11-year-olds being like, I need to get a different class. I need to go somewhere else. But I feel like it was a moment for me to be like, this is good. I feel like every healthy, functional parent should want their kid to someday be better than them at something, right?
That's why I don't have kids.
That's right, because you just.
I don't want anyone to be better at me than me at anything.
Right. I feel like it's the ones that are competing with their kids. That's where the problem.
And I'm nipping that in bud right there. It's like if I don't sire a child, then they can't come for me later in life.
That's right. They just want to take over, and everybody knows that they need your head. To do that. It's Highlander.
I saw Game of Thrones. I know how this shit goes.
Yes. Speaking of seizing power, seizing power has its own connotations. Strength, yes.
Speaking of pursuing strength.
Strength. What is strength? Apparently, that question will be answered in Street Fighter 6 in some form or another. We're going to talk about Street Fighter 6 here. Let's just jump into it. The Tale of Bosch.
Bosch, man, fucking Bosch.
Fucking Bosch.
What an asshole.
Bosch is out there trying to can't wait to get the power naturally, the strength. He's got to get out there and cause all kinds of mayhem.
The literal human embodiment of I didn't come here to make friends. Like he all but says it.
Street Fighter 6 is out this Friday officially. We have all jumped into some version of it. There was that demo, would you call it? Pre-release thing they put out, the character
there was the demo, and then they did an open beta 2 weekends ago.
They did an open multiplayer beta.
So some people have played some multiplayer.
So there's a couple, let's just get into it. There's a couple of different flavors of your Street Fighter 6 here, aside from what are actually the different flavors of like bundles you could buy. This game, you can get in basically the basic version for $60, which is, you know,
is it 60?
Probably worth mentioning because not a lot of $60 games out there.
Shocking.
Yeah, you can get in the door for 60.
Has Capcom not crossed the bridge yet, generally?
I don't know. How much was that Resident? I thought Resident Evil was 70, yeah.
Let me double check that.
I mean, I will say this for Street Fighter. It's a nice looking game. It's not a, let's just say, console graphical showpiece.
Yeah,
maybe the way some of these other games are.
Yes, it looks good.
It looks great. I think the art style is fantastic.
Yeah, it looks good like you expect a Street Fighter 2. The RE4 remake was $60, so Capcom.
Oh, it was 60.
Okay, so they just haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Still on that tip. I think the backgrounds in this look fine, but not spectacular, and I feel like the characters maybe don't stand out as much as they could from the backgrounds.
I think the characters look meaty and powerful.
Yeah,
yes.
I think
some.
There's a lot of hard hits,
forearms.
Yeah. Even the kind of more lithe characters have good impacts, and everything feels like it hurts a lot.
Even if you are a skinny character, you have the biggest fucking hands and feet of any character that has ever been in a video game.
Yeah. Also, ever since Street Fighter 4, I came into this going like, what's the new effect going to be? Because it was ink in 4.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call it in 5. This with the drive impacts, like watercolors, I guess. It's kind of like watercolor paint.
Yeah, like
sort of
splashes of color.
Good.
Yeah, it looks all right.
So the tone of the game is just like kind of cartoony. It's kind of like it's a little Blue Sky to me. You know, like that Blue Sky idea from like the Dreamcast era of just like bright, positive, uplifting type games. You know what I mean? Like, this has kind of got a little bit of that, which I wasn't expecting.
It's very cheery for a game about beating the shit out of people.
And motivational also. Yeah. Like, a whole lot of, like, fight gym style, like, to be the best, you gotta blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of uplifting motivational stuff.
Never give up. It's, going back to what I was getting at earlier, aside from the different versions you could buy, there's basically, seems like 3 main sections, and they're actually like Call of Duty quarantined off. There's the stuff that I think we were just talking about, which is the more create a character story world thing.
World Tour.
Yeah, World Tour. There is, I'm going to jump ahead to the third one, which is the kind of single-player arcade story mode stuff.
They call that Fighting Ground, I think?
Fighting Ground. It's got the training built into it. It's got a bunch of other stuff. And then there's the online mode, which I did not try because by the time I was in it, the kind of server window had passed.
Yeah, we've had the game for a bit, but the online mode was only available for a short window.
Yeah, so I did not try the actual online stuff. I tried the kind of single-player tutorial arcadey stuff, and then spent most of my time in the world tour stuff where you make your character. I did not. I made a robot lady. I did not go for like the grotesque end of things. Having seen, Brad, what you can make from that stream we did.
Yes,
I was like,
it asked me when I started that mode up. It said something along the lines of, detected previous save data. Would you like to import this data?
And you said no, burn it.
I was like, I thought about it for half a second, and I was like, that's better left in the past. Let's just expunge that character from existence.
I just hit the random button on the character creator over and over again until I saw something that spoke to me, and then I lightly tweaked it, and I ended up with a lightly grotesque, a very long person, and very like incandescently white guy with a mustache, and for some reason the words glowing Jimbo came to me, so I named him Glimbo.
Great.
Okay, good. Glimbo.
Yeah. I have made the second coming of a certain legendary former mayor.
Okay.
Okay.
And now I'm just waiting for the right outfit.
Dinkins. You made Mayor Dinkins.
Mayor Dinkins is in there.
Mike H.
Oh. Okay, you're trying to get ahead of the DLC or putting Hagar in there. My robot lady I just called Prism, and she's got like glowing etched circuit board trails on her.
One of the presets is like literally a Cyberpunk 2077 character.
That's kind of like what mine looks like. It's got a scar across the eye because you could do it. The character creator is pretty robust.
Yes, you can do some stuff with that thing.
You could do some ungodly, unnatural things in there. I realized after watching you play it, Brad, that time that if I'm gonna spend any amount of time with this character in any serious fighting way, I need to have a character that registers as somewhat human. Like I need to get in there.
I can't feel sorry for the person that I am playing the entire time.
Though they kind of map personality onto your character, and it's a little bit of a shame. You don't get a lot of choice in the personality of your character. Like Brad said, it's pretty positive.
It's like the voice lines more than anything else, but even that is more just like grunts.
And so my death robot machine is a lot of thumbs up, pretty positive throughout this thing. Yeah, right. Yeah, a lot of big thumbs up. So you kind of start this thing off. If you played the beta or the demo of this, you kind of know where this starts. It's Luke's gym. You're the newbie along with Bosch. Bosch, you've signed up for the course. You're here to get strength. Luke knows about strength. He's going to teach it to you. Quickly, you realize Bosch is not interested in the actual 12 steps to strength. He just wants them right now, and he bails. And then you're kind of released out on the world, really. After
Metro City, baby.
Yeah, that mode is weird.
It's really weird.
Strange, like when Alex described it the other day as, like, what did you say, Yakuza Light?
Yes.
I think it made a little more sense to me what they were going for.
Dude, between the power-ups and, like, items that you collect along the way, the random battles with the various gangs that, populate the zone, just the way that you interact with it, like, it doesn't have the soul or the spice of Yakuza like story mode, but it does have like the basic skeletal structure, and at least understands what was good about Yakuza, even though I don't think it's capable of recreating sort of the more lurid qualities of that, because Street Fighter is just not that. Street Fighter does not have any spice to it. It is basically just candy.
There's some goofy stuff in there. Did you find the superhero up on the building, like, observing?
Mm-hmm. No, there's goofy stuff in there. It's none of it is real storytelling. Like, it has more of the structure and, like, personality of, maybe less of the branding, but, like, the NBA 2K walk around the open world and go into fucking Champ Sports and talk to Jake from State Farm shit versus, like, the actual, like, storytelling of a Yakuza game.
I hadn't considered that might also be a bit of an inspiration.
It's very silly. It's extremely silly. The enemies have boxes on their head for the most part, the ones that will random encounter you. There's a guy or a group or a class of enemies called the Roughest Riders, which I was like, okay, that's pretty dumb. It's dumb.
It's also a mode where you can literally fight every NPC on the street. Like,
there's a very limited number that you can't, but they show you when you can't.
Like, the second they were like, go fight 2 bypassers to complete this quest, I just immediately, like, started fighting a, like, relatively elderly woman because she was the first character I saw at my level, and I challenged her, and next thing you know, we're doing Street Fighter stuff. Although it's, like, very limited. Like, the fighting there is absolutely not what you're going to see online and in the main arcade and regular modes.
So you will occasionally get into a bigger boss battle with a more significant character, and them you will get into a full-on 3-round fight with. But almost all the other ones, are just like, get their health bar down, you're done.
Yeah, and it's very much focused on leveling up and unlocking moves, and you're basically, I assume this is going to carry through the whole mode. You're training with all the classic Street Fighter characters.
Yes.
Like, I'm still studying under Chun-Li at the moment.
So, so what ends up happening is once you get past Chun-Li's stuff, and you kind of open up a little bit more of the city, you can actually travel to the different cities where the world stages are, and then you will meet the other Street Fighters there, and then you can... So there's a currency in the game called travel tickets, which are basically just plane tickets to wherever you want to go, and you get them in reasonably decent quantity. But anytime you want to go back to one of those environments, you can essentially just give gifts and keep talking to the different Street Fighter characters after you beat them, and they will continue to like unlock new moves for you and like new like the super arts and all that stuff.
Or call-ins, you can call them in, and but you have to use their stance to really
to level it up.
So you're building a list of moves of the moves you've unlocked, but like there's a lot though. Like you have a character level, you can level up with each teacher or master. Trying to think. There's a skill tree. There's like other progression that I'm not thinking of right now.
It doesn't seem like a giant skill tree, I will say. It does not feel like they've padded that out.
Well, but there's quite a bit to level up and progress. Like clothing has stats on it.
Yeah.
you get you can mix and match the move. You can choose a stance from a teacher, which is a general move set from like a Chun-Li or a Luke, or I forget what the lady in the Coliseum, her name, Maria. What's the big gladiator lady? Marissa. You choose their general move set, and then you can mix and match certain specials in there, which is cool and weird.
Yeah.
To be able to throw a fireball and do like Guile's flash kick. It's a kind of a weird thing. And then, yes, the clothing has special abilities or buffs on them. You can just use items if you want in fights. You can do call-ins from your teacher if you want. Sometimes you have a partner you're running around with. Sometimes you're fighting 4 characters, 5, 6 characters in a run there. You have, what is it, mercy points? What's the thing that revives you? The miles. The miles that if you want to revive yourself after a fight. It's a wacky like, I don't know, stew. It's a wacky stew. Everything's in there.
Here's what I'll give it. As much as I think that they're striving for some things that maybe like just on the Street Fighter level they can't quite get to, it is a surprisingly robust first attempt at doing an open world mode in a game like this from these developers. Like, whether I think all the stuff that's in the world is interesting to interact with, or whether I feel like I'm maybe kind of starting to run into a lot of the same battles over and over again, I think that they have done a surprisingly good job populating that thing with stuff that is at least interesting to poke at once or twice. And there's enough character and enough personality in there that feels, akin to what they do with Street Fighter storytelling these days. And I think, look at where I'm at right now, I'm about to go jump into an actual fighting tournament sponsored by fucking the people who want to memorialize Mike Hagar. So, like, I'm like, okay, they know what they're doing here.
Great.
Oh, yeah, Mad Gear is around.
Yeah.
Yes, I just fought a Mad Gear noob.
Yeah.
A low-level enemy that, anyway. I appreciate that they went for something here. Like, Mortal Kombat has obviously carved out its lane recently with the kind of linear cinematic storytelling.
Yes.
So it's nice. Like, they tried that with 5 and it did not go great.
No.
So it's nice to see them trying to do their own thing here, however successful it is. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know that I'm going to like play it all the way to completion, especially because it seems like the leveling could take quite a while, potentially. But it's neat-ish.
I definitely found myself trying to avoid getting into some fights because it was like, I don't want to fight 4 of these guys again. I just want to get to the next thing.
You get XP for it, but
you get XP.
At a certain point, it does feel a little bit, like it's that Yakuza problem of like, hey, maybe if you tune down the random battles just a hair, it'd be great.
You can escape from battles if you really want to.
We know, offline modes haven't been available much. It's hard to know, like, does anything from that mode feed back into progression elsewhere? Or is it all self-contained in that mode?
As far as I know, it's all self-contained in that mode.
Okay. That would have been more incentive to keep playing it, but anyway.
Maybe you get some, like, I don't know. I could see them unlocking, like, what do they call those name tag things? Your, like, title, things like that, or cosmetics.
Yeah, in the main fighting, like, there is a costume slot, because of course there is, but there's only one unlocked from the beginning, so I don't know if those are just going to be DLC, or maybe you can get them somewhere else. So if you guys spend much time in the other...
I went into the arcade story mode. I did 2
I've done
stories.
A few of those, yeah.
That's pretty thin.
It's very thin.
Yeah. It's kind of... I appreciate that they're still doing it. The storytelling is pretty sparse. I only did one of them, but it's like...
Who'd you do?
One... Ken.
I did Ken as well.
I did Ken and found out that Ken apparently is some kind of international terrorist now.
Hey, he was framed, okay? Yeah, and it's like, do you understand what his arc was in that thing?
Not especially. I don't know if they're assuming some foreknowledge that I lack there. It seems like each character has I think the matches might be randomized up until the last fight, which is like a story fight with a specific character.
There might be another. I played only the was it 6 rounds? One's fighting the truck, I think. Is that what
that
is?
That was a fantastic moment. First of all, I think it's telling when you start a story. Whatever they call this, the arcade story mode or whatever. When you start one, they say, "Do you want to do 12 fights or 5?"
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, you can get through one of these in 10 to 15 minutes.
Seriously.
If you plow through it, if you just want to see the character endings, it's a little perfunctory, but yes, getting to that third fight and just seeing Ken versus Truck pop up was a good moment.
And so I did Ken as well. He's like on some he basically says some dialogue of like, you get the setup, I was framed from this thing, now I have a real reason to fight. And then he goes and he fights that guy with the cane at the end. JP, who really looks like what's his Christopher the guy from Lord of the Rings who's passed.
Christopher Lee.
Yeah, he's got a real Christopher Lee vibe going on. And you beat him. And he's like, well, okay. It's not like you figure out what happened there.
I mean, this is like a legacy thing. Like, they're doing this because they know people want their little arcade stories and final cutscenes and stuff when they do that stuff. And it's also not a bad way to just train with each character and just get a sense of like what they can do. But
for sure,
it's very perfunctory.
Yeah, I should know better maybe, but outside of the classic characters in this, of whom there are, I think, 10?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
I think it's 10. Like, I appreciate that they are still smarting from Street Fighter 3 and have just thrown in the towel and just know they have to put the original 8 in here no matter what.
Yes.
From day one.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't make a new Street Fighter without those 8s. Just put them in there. Mm-hmm. Anything else is gravy on top of that, I guess. But outside of them, there's also DJ and Cammy, and I think that's... And like Jury, I know Jury from, and like maybe a couple others, but I don't know how many of these are new characters.
Let me take a look here, because I don't remember who all the fighters were in 5, I will say, because I did not play a great deal of that game.
I also extremely did not stick with that.
Most of my exposure to it was watching it at EVO.
Okay, I've got a list here. It's Luke, Jamie, Kimberly, Marissa, Manon, and Lily, and JP. So a good number of the non-classic characters are new.
So some of them come over from ties. Like Kimberly, I think is through Guy, is like a student of Guy's, and I want to say Lily
is T-Hawk related, I think.
Yeah. Like
interesting. I wonder if they just kind of mapped a lot of the existing moves of those characters onto their students.
I mean, Lily plays completely differently from a T-Hawk, but like
Lily's a little scary. Like I played through Lily's story, and she's I don't know. I would be scared of her. She's out there for blood. She seems like she's out there to have a fun time.
Yeah. Did you guys do at least the basic tutorials on all the fighting systems?
I did. Yeah.
I didn't do. I really didn't like. I should get more used to it. I don't like the modern stuff, so I just did.
I was going to ask, so like, what is your control scheme?
Why does it? It seems to really try to push you. So they've got classic and modern controls. Classic, you know exactly what that is. Modern is very streamlined. It's only 4 buttons.
Oh, you mean woke controls?
I'm sorry?
Wait, what?
No, I'm joking. Like, there was a guy, one dumbass online a few nights ago described them as woke controls, and there was a good night of everyone dunking on that. Because honestly, it's one of the, like, that is now an intrusive thought in my head. I hear that all the time, and I'm yelling that in the fucking, me character saying, I'm using tilt controls voice.
Just words no longer have any meaning.
No, I know. They don't.
Completely, like, inappropriate usage of everything.
Yes, absolutely. So are you using woke controls?
I did not get into woke controls. I was I switched it back to classic after the kind of initial bit of business there.
It seems like 3 places they have defaulted me to modern controls, and I had to manually change it back. But anyway,
there's a mission you get from in the story mode where they're like, "Hey, I'm going to show you. Oh, sorry, you're using classic controls. You can only do this mission if you're using modern controls."
I mean, it's the big new thing, and like it's the first time they've really tried to streamline this stuff in a way that felt like, hey, we're keeping the classic spirit of this up while also making it easy for people who just don't like these kinds of fighting game inputs.
Yeah, I mean, it's got auto special moves on a face button and auto combos. If you hold the shoulder button and just kind of hit the same button and connect, it'll do a combo for you.
That didn't seem to work that well for me when I was trying it out. But maybe I wasn't really giving the system its fair shake because I think you might have to start with just a regular normal, like a standing normal, to get a combo going or something like that. I wonder. I assume the online is maybe going to have filters for control schemes. I'm not sure. Interesting. Okay.
I think the fighting system seems interesting.
Yeah,
like the drive gauge seems like the big thing there. It seems like a lot of parries and like breaking through attacks.
Yeah,
and punishing people that are turtling in a corner and stuff like that.
Totally, like explicitly.
Like you basically hit 2 face buttons to use your drive. There's drive impacts and drive parries.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just earn drive by doing stuff.
I'll tell you right now, every single drive parry I've managed has been completely by accident.
Yeah, the timing is tough. Like I think all this is interesting. I wonder about my ability to actually get good at it.
The AI will parry like a motherfucker though.
Yeah.
Like the AI will parry. If you try to do a drive attack on the AI in the corner, you're basically going to get thrown or parried.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you do any of the advanced tutorials about like armor and stuff like that?
I did not. I didn't get into that stuff.
So there's
Is
like
it good?
certain moves have armor, quote unquote, including like the drive impacts are some of those, which essentially means
They absorb 2 hits?
like, yeah, basically, if you meet one of their attacks with an armor attack, it'll absorb some of the hits, but not necessarily all of them. And certain
Okay.
other moves can break armor, which is called an armor break.
That tracks.
Yeah, like I said, there's the stuff where you can knock people out of their block if they're in the corner. There's throw parries. There's the drive parries. Like there's a lot of timing based stuff that seems like it's going to place a pretty high skill ceiling on this. But also when I think about how much time it takes to get good at a fighting game,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that there are two other bangers of fighting games coming this year.
We hope.
I
We
wonder-
assume. We hope.
Oh yeah, I guess Tekken doesn't have a release date yet.
But also, we just assume they're going to be bangers. But I mean,
oh yeah,
let's be
also
real.
yes. I mean,
We haven't
yeah.
played them yet.
To be fair, yes, we don't know. Still, though, I wonder you might have to cast your lot with one of these games and main.
And I can tell you right now, just from my own personal preferences, I'm probably more likely to get further into Mortal Kombat or Tekken than I am this. But I will say this is definitely the most I have gotten into a Street Fighter game since 4 first came around.
Yeah, same for sure. I'm excited to go online with this in a few days and see how long I can stick with it and how badly I eat shit.
I don't know if I'm going to go online too much. I'll probably dabble in the story mode. I think I did appreciate, or at least people should know that in the arcade mode story, as you're going through, if you lose, when you continue, it seems they knock the CPU level down a smidge. It kind of it tells you what level the CPU is at.
Yeah.
If you make it all the way through, I think it's at 6, and then I lost on JP on one of them, and then it knocked him down to 5.
Oh, interesting. He was weird. He was at 4 when I fought him, but I hadn't lost any matches.
Oh, weird. Okay, maybe it's
it's
gauging it by something else. Maybe it's
I
like
don't know.
maybe it's just the gauging it off of like how many rounds you lost, or I don't know, something. But I lost, and I was like, oh shit, this guy just crushed me, this difficulty spike. And then the second time I went against him, I was creaming him, and I was like, what happened? And then I looked in the corner, and it was like, wait, he was definitely on 6 when I got in there.
He's the kind of asshole with like teleporting moves.
He sucked. He was like he was hard. I like the characters. I like Marissa. She seems like a cool character. Her hair looks like a gladiator helmet.
Yeah, it's some real good fucking dumb Street Fighter haircut shit. I appreciate that.
All the returning characters seem old and tired. Like Chun-Li seems like, I don't know. I was a fighter once. Ken just seems like he's like undercover Ken. I don't know what he's doing.
He's on the run. He's been falsely accused, or has he?
Or has he?
DJ's still DJ. That dude hasn't changed a bit.
But he looks everybody's
he looks
like
a little
thicker.
older, but when you go to his stage, man, that dude is still partying as hard as he ever did.
Blanca is running a farm. I don't know what Blanca's doing.
Well, when you meet Blanca in the story mode, it's really weird, I will say. That is one of the weirder ones, because you encounter a person wearing a Blanca costume, and then actual Blanca shows up, and he's like, oh, you saw Blanca! And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude?
Wait, whose story? Wait, when you fight as
in
Blanca?
the main story, in the like when you encounter Blanca in the like the open world mode.
Oh, the open world part. That's like a teacher? Okay.
Yeah. It's really weird.
I completely forgot that Blanca is wearing overalls and a handkerchief in his default costume.
It is. I think Dalzim, I love his portrayal in this. He looks wicked.
Big white beard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big white beard,
like
just
full David Letterman.
Stretching. He's a pretzel at this point. He's like, I like what his character looks like. So yeah, I think the character and the art and everything like that is really cool. I think Cammy is maybe the most boring looking character in all of it. She just looks like, I don't know, fighting character. Everybody else has a lot. It looks like they went for personality.
Yes.
a lot of the time, which is cool. Guile looks like an asshole, which is kind of what Guile should look like. Everybody is also inflated. This is a beefy version of everybody. Luke looks dumb. Like, he's nice. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's trying his best.
Wait, what the? I just pulled up Luke's bio on the official site. A contractor for a PMC.
Yes,
is how his bio starts. I would have thought that like fight gym coach was his day job.
Nope.
Based on what I've seen so far.
It's a private military contractor, and he wears his army jacket around town. He's Luke's. Look, you sign up with Luke, you know what you're getting into. He put his ad on Facebook, on Craigslist, and you signed up. You want the strength. So yeah, I think I'll probably dabble around some more in it. I did get a little burned out running around the town after a while of those fights.
You should at least get to the part where they introduce the fighting tournament, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I think the neatest, or one of the neater things, is you can pull off some special moves in the world and you can use them for traversal, which is like a really interesting thing to be able to like get up to ledges and go across spans by using a bird kick. Is like, okay, that's weird, but neat.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting way to gate progress around the city. Last thing I'll say for him, like you kind of alluded to this, I don't know how it's handled on Xbox. I know like on Steam you could do it through the DLC interface, but they actually let you download and delete the different modes individually, which is smart because this game is going to be used at tournaments on PS5s for a very long time. So being able to delete everything except the versus mode that you actually need for the tournament is cool.
So I initially downloaded this through the web download manager, the thing that lets you like put stuff in there, and it only downloaded the core and didn't show the other modules. Yeah. And then I couldn't find because I wasn't able to get online. So maybe if you can get online, it'll show up in the quote unquote store, but all those things were blacked out. And I could not find on the store page, wherever it was in my managed content on the PlayStation, which was like kind of hard to find how to get the rest of these add-ons in, or add-ons, the rest of the game in there, which is weird. You know, it launches its own executable pretty much when you jump into those other modes. You have to link, or they want you to link your account with your Capcom ID. Did you guys have a Capcom?
No,
I had to make one.
I had to spend some time trying to figure out. I believe it's pretty new.
Like all of the usernames I usually use were taken, which made me think like, do I have something else registered in here somewhere? Because I usually don't, the usernames I use are not that common.
Yeah, I think they only rolled out the Capcom ID sometime in the last like 6 months.
I made a fighting ID in Street Fighter V, but that was like a nickname, like the fighting nickname, which had to be unique at the time. I don't know.
There used to be the Capcom account, which they have retired because, Capcom account, Capcom ID, totally different.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, I'm sure there was something for Monster Hunter at some point to link something somewhere. But anyway, they want you to get online and link all that stuff up, and hopefully the servers stay up, because I'll tell you what, if the servers are down, it knocks a decent amount of stuff off of that game. So having played it offline, which you can play offline, but you will be locked out of a significant amount of content that's in that package if it's offline. That
Street Fighter 6, it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm no fighting game expert. I like Street Fighter. I will always like Street Fighter because that's the fighting game I grew up with and adored at a time. It has grown up alongside me. I have grown up alongside it. It seems fun for me as a casual Street Fighter fan. The story mode stuff, that's where I'm at with fighting games at this point, is how's your story mode? I found the arcade stuff to be pretty thin, the World Tour stuff to be okay, but maybe it feels so far, and I'm not that long into it, but it feels like a mile wide and kind of an inch deep on the World Tour stuff, where there's a lot to do, but it's not that different stuff. So let's see how MK and Tekken do. Their story modes are usually have MK has been killing it with the story modes. The Tekken story stuff is usually just dumb enough to be entertaining.
Yeah, that MK stuff is just the gold standard for fighting game stories at this point.
I think they picked Street Fighter picked the right thing to try and rip off this time, though. Like whether or not they 100% nailed it, I think that they they picked the right direction to go in with this.
Yeah. And then, like, my ultimate litmus test or gauge is how happy the FGC seems, and they seem quite happy.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
cool.
yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. People who are serious about competitive fighting games seem very eager for this.
Neat. Okay, that is actually cool to hear. So this one might have some legs.
Yeah, because it's been out there and playable in enough forms at this point that people have spent time with it.
Was 5 kind of at the end of the 5's run? Was it pretty accepted?
I asked someone a couple weeks ago who was very into fighting games how they feel about it these days, and they said that they think it's gotten to a pretty good place.
Okay.
Yeah, it seemed like, at the very least at the, competitive level, like it was doing well enough that it was still featuring pretty heavily at, EVO and the big tournaments.
Yeah. But I do remember a fair amount of discontent with 5 early on.
Yeah, the early goings of that game were not good.
MK doesn't really get a lot of tournament play, right?
It does, like, usually for the first year or two.
Yeah, when it's new, it'll get some. It's never been like final event at Evo level.
I mean, a lot of times it's like the opener of the like the main stage stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be earlier in the weekend or whatever from what I've seen. I don't know. I played a lot of 11 online. I actually played it like daily for a couple months after it came out. So
It's fairly balanced.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not qualified to speak to balance necessarily, but I enjoyed the fighting system way more than 9 and 10. Anyway, fighting games.
That's got to be hard making a fighting game and trying to be new enough without breaking everything.
You could have just ended the sentence at "It's hard enough to make a fighting game."
Yeah. Like, yes. That's Street Fighter 6. It is out as of worldwide this Friday, I believe. You can look for it. $60 across pretty much everything. Does it have a Switch release? I'm going to say no, but I'm going to double check.
Oh, no.
No, I'm saying no.
I'm not going to check, and I'm going to say no.
So no, you can't stream this to your Switch.
Not yet.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about some more video games. Stick around. This week's show is brought to you by MeUndies. MeUndies. Brad and Alex, it says here, MeUndies is a celebration of what makes you who you are underneath it all. That's because they got undies and socks and onesies.
Underneath it all, I am wearing underwear.
Alex Navarro, underneath it all, your underwear. Are you wearing MeUndies?
I have been known to wear MeUndies. This is not the first time we have done stuff with MeUndies, though this time around they sent me some more underwear. And let me tell you something about myself, Vinny Carabella, something you might not know about me. Despite my hardened exterior, despite my rugged masculinity,
with this one, I know. Yeah.
I like soft underwear.
Okay.
I like it when it's comfy.
Underwear?
I like it when it's comfy around my junk and butt area.
Okay. How's MeUndies doing you in that regard? Fantastic. It says here, MeUndies has transformed the underwear game, and now they're entering their swimwear era. They've got, their swimwear phase. Every team goes through it. Ultra chlorine resistant, UPF 50 plus for extra sun protection on your butt. Look.
Hey, you can get sunburned there. That's no good.
Surely can. Sustainably sourced and imported under fair working conditions. That appeals to me. You want to get in on this MeUndies? You can get 25% off your first order plus free standard shipping. Visit MeUndies.com/Nextlander. Remember, if you're not satisfied, your purchase is on MeUndies. That's 25% off your first order at MeUndies.com/Nextlander. Thanks, MeUndies. And we're back, and there are more video games coming out. This next one has been around in different forms. Literally been around in other forms. System Shock is back.
7 years. Since they kickstarted this remake.
Has that been that long?
7 years for something that I think they wanted to get out like in 18 months originally, if I remember. It was roughly something like that.
And ain't that the way it always goes?
Delayed numerous times. I mean, actually put down, like they flat out said they were suspending development at one point.
This is
remake.
This is the remake of the original 22-year-old System Shock. This is now available at least on PC. Are there plans to bring this to consoles at some point?
This is almost 30 years old.
Jeez Louise, really?
Yeah, 94.
Oh my god. What's wrong with this?
29 years, I guess. I think it's very cool from what I've played of it so far. I never played the original System Shock. System Shock 2 is a favorite, let's say. Definitely enjoyed this kind of game. So going to this fresh is pretty awesome, I would say. Like it. What this feels like to me is if it did not have the System Shock name on it, and I had never played it before, which I haven't, what I would have thought this is one of the many throwbacks to this genre that are coming out as new games these days.
Sure, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Like a D-make or whatever they're
yes. God, what is the something Haven? I always want to call it Gloomhaven, which it's not. What is the Haven game? Something Haven.
N64-ish one?
No, the one I played it on a stream a few months ago.
Oh, that PlayStation?
It's an early access. It's more Thief era. It's like a Thief era immersive sim. It's even
I know
Victorian
which game you're talking
look.
about.
Yeah,
it's killing me that I can't think of the name of it right now. Anyway, it's like stuff. It's like that. It's like, you know, there is a classic style immersive sim that is a new game being made right now. This feels like that, which I feel like I mean as a compliment. I think like it feels like that style of game, but modernized enough that it feels playable and relevant now.
Yeah. It's an interesting art aesthetic where if you squint, it looks fairly modern, and then you get kind of close up the stuff, and it's pretty not pixelated isn't the right word, but
the textures are quite blocky looking.
Yeah, blocky.
It's definitely going for a retro modern kind of thing that I think it's pulling off really well.
Plays well, like at least from what I've played of it so far, which isn't that much further than I got in the demo. This time I'm being careful not to get myself stuck in a situation where I have 1 health and surrounded by enemies. My problem with it so far is I am a toddler and I need my hand held through video games. Apparently, like I am having a little trouble figuring out what I should be collecting, what I should be doing, where I should be going.
The prevailing thing. I'm still on the first level, the first level of the station, the medical or whatever. Like the thing I keep reading about this, both like on forums and in reviews and stuff, is no objective indicators. It does not tell you where to go or what to do. You need to read logs and listen to logs and like look at whiteboards in the world and stuff like that to basically figure out where to go next and what to do.
So one thing I know is like I hit the security cameras when I see them if I can. I
haven't been doing that yet.
Yeah, it knocks this. I don't know what it gets you, but somebody in one log said Shodan can see everything you do, and then I was like, well, the security cameras are on the map. I'll do that. I'll hit them, but I ain't wasting ammo on them.
Yeah,
jump and hit them with a crowbar if I can.
Did
you hack? Did you go into cyberspace? Okay.
I have not been in cyberspace yet.
I'm not sure what the objective is once I'm in cyberspace, other than get out of cyberspace. I did it. I didn't open a door.
Alex did it in the demo in that stream we did. Was it get to the end? I don't remember.
I got to the end, and then I looked around, and
I'm trying to remember. I remember going into the hacking zone. I don't really remember what happened at the end of it.
I can't remember if you fight a boss, or you maybe just have to get to the...
I got to a portal that led out. I mean, it's basically like playing Descent at that point. You're just kind of 360 degrees of motion in a little VR-ish, like 90s version of VR world.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's neat. I like the vibe on it. I never played System Shock, nor did I play System Shock 2. So this is all fairly new for me.
So there's finally an enhanced edition of System Shock 2, not a remake, but basically just a gussied up version of the original with like proper widescreen and UI and stuff coming out.
Okay. Which
is very exciting. And part of me is like a little wary of whether it's going to hold up or not after so long. But it's awesome that game is going to be playable in a proper modern format soon.
So you don't think with the development of this one that a System Shock 2 in this vein is anywhere on the horizon? This is...
I mean, not for another 7 years at least.
Yeah, unless this remake does insanely well, probably not, seeing how this one went, or maybe another developer would have to take it on. I think like Night Dive just doesn't do a lot of original development.
Well, I guess if they did it in the same engine and maybe just had to make more assets, reduce story stuff, and without having to change too much of the core, maybe the development would be expedited a bit.
It's possible. They're porting 2 to the Kex engine for Enhanced Edition, I believe, which is their in-house engine.
Okay.
That the modern version of Quake also runs on and stuff. This remake is on Unreal for what it's worth. I'm excited to play more of this. It feels like a very, well, here I go again. Like I was going to say, it feels like a very intentional throwback. It's not a throwback because it was back to begin with. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is, like, in fact, arguably, like, along with Ultima Underworld, like, the game that started the whole genre. So this is not a throwback in and of itself, but having never played it before, it's like, oh man, it's like an undiscovered one of these that I've never seen before, and now I get to play it for the first time. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's got, it's got the thing I love of you can interact with, like, kind of everything in the environment, although you can't, like, pick it up and throw it around. It's mostly just pick it up and break it down into scrap.
Right.
I guess they've streamlined the controls dramatically. I should fire up the original sometime just to see how it worked. Like, apparently there were like 8 movement controls.
Oh, I have no idea.
Different controls for walk and crouch and stand back up and like run and all kinds of insane stuff. And also you interacted with the world like a point and click game in the first game, like a mouse cursor detached from your look.
Okay.
So this is much more modern game. Just
this
like
feels fine. Like
your crosshair is the thing you use to interact with things. It's WASD. It feels like a modern game.
I'll say maybe one of the most interesting things. This game is fun, and I wanted to go back in and explore it more. But I mentioned 22 years earlier because that's what the text here on our description page said, and I'm pretty sure that was written when this game was announced. So that's why it says
that checks out.
It says after 22 years, Cyberpunk cult classic System Shock is getting an update. And it's just to tell you how long this has been in development,
plus or minus
7 plus years, 8
8
years ish.
Yeah. I'm excited to play more of this. I think the lack of direction feels like a fun challenge. I do wonder maybe if it's going to get to be too much at some point.
Or maybe it gets easier. Maybe once you get your bearings and you get more on a couple of tracks here, maybe it gets easier. I don't know.
The review on The Verge I read from somebody who's played through the original 4 times kind of made it sound like it just gets harder.
Oh yeah, okay.
At some point.
Okay.
So we'll see. One of the difficulty levels, they segment them out. Like you can tweak difficulty on combat and puzzles and story all independently. And one of those gives you objective indicators.
Oh, okay.
I forget. I don't know if it's puzzle or probably story, I would guess. If you put that on easy, they do put objective indicators in there.
Can you change that mid-game, or do you have to start
Probably.
over? Okay.
Probably.
I just left everything on default, which was 2, I think.
Yeah. I think it looks great. I'm really enamored of the look with all the neon computer lights everywhere, and there's really weird cyber stained glass patterns all over the place and stuff.
Yeah. I think it looks cool as well. I'm digging it. It's available now on Steam. I think they do have and had announced some plans to bring it other places, but those might be TBD. I think it's on Epic as well, so look for it there. Though with this development, I don't know exactly where everything is at this point in their release schedule, but it is definitely available on Steam because that's where I played it.
Yeah, console version's coming later. Apparently,
they have dates or just TBD. No. Okay. $40 to get into System Shock currently. Let's talk quickly here about let's jump into see how everybody's doing on the old Legend of Zelda. Any news?
Nothing significant to report. Again, Street Fighter took over most of my week, but I continue to plug away and just kind of, go to whatever looks most interesting to me at any given moment. Still haven't really done a dungeon in that game. I just keep going to villages and just kind of poking around and doing side quests and stuff.
Okay.
Do they give you powers after the dungeons on the same order as the first game in terms of how much they affect the game?
I would say yes.
Okay.
They're more tailored towards this game's specific mechanics, but I would say yes so far. I've done 2. I don't know where I've done 2, and I'm excited to do more because of that. Because they're fairly unique. And
The powers or the dungeons?
Well, I'll say
Both.
the first dungeon I did what felt derivative from Breath of the Wild. The second one I did not. So hopefully it's I haven't done a third to have a true test here. So I'm hoping they're less like that first dungeon and more. The first one just felt like a beast to me. The second one I did, which was the let's call it the fire dungeon, was more fun and interesting. At least
Longer? Are they longer like old Zelda games? Or
they're fairly short.
Oh yeah, okay. Like a lot of enemies, because that's another thing where the Divine Beast said not a lot of enemies.
No. At least the two I've done it's more. Hey, how fluent with the mechanics are you? It's more like the puzzle solving here is going to be use the mechanics in ways that solve this dungeon, and we're not. I mean, you get a boss at the end, but this isn't a combat trial. I've done a bunch of shrines now. I almost thought I was up to my second tier of hearts, but it just popped another one at the end of my first tier. I feel like once you get to your second row of hearts, you're like, all right, I've done something right. I'm really moving here. Stamina wheel is building up again. I'm enjoying it. The game really just did a 90-degree turn for me once some of the mechanics started opening up, specifically that mechanic where I could spend Zonite to just build whatever contraption I wanted to. That without that, I think I probably would have put this game down. Like it's just such a difference where it's like, I just want to build this thing and now I can. Now I could just do that. I'm doing all the Korok challenges that I come across. I mean, the ones where you have to get the little Korok to the other ends now because of that, and I'm really engaging with the systems much, much more than I was before. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun.
Like I said, I think I have a feeling I'm just going to be playing this game in some version or another for, let's just say, the rest of this year. I'm taken more by how much I want to poke around in the world now that I've initially found the world kind of uninteresting, and now I want to poke every dark corner of every world bit. I spend too much time underground is my thing. I just need to see the light. Just get out there. I should probably do the dungeons to get the powers.
Is it still underground? Is it still just like there for its own sake? Like, has there been anything you have to do down there, or is it just another place to explore? They're not going to put one of the dungeons down there, I guess is what I'm saying.
No comment.
Okay, all right.
They do.
There's stuff going on down there.
Does seem to integrate with. Okay. I'll tell you what. This sky stuff has been maybe the least interesting for me. Again, I think I said this last time. Like,
yeah, I don't hate the sky stuff at all, but it definitely feels more like the puzzle is getting up there, and then once you're up there, it's just a discrete thing to explore. Like, it does not have quite the same level of, like, I can just poke around anywhere and see what's going on here. It feels like once you're up there, it's like, well, I have to solve this challenge now, and then once I'm done here and seen everything, now I can just go back down.
Yeah, I mean, I guess by its very nature, there's only so much they can put up there, right? Because it's like pretty limited space.
It feels like the islands in Wind Waker. Like they're pretty isolated things that you're like, oh, okay, there's like a 3-step process to exploring this sky archipelago, right? And then you're kind of moving on to the next batch of things there, and then or you're back on the ground. So, kind of like in Wind Waker, it's like if you get to the thing, you'll explore that area. I haven't gotten to anything too mesmerizing up there. I think the story is really going interesting places, and that's good because I thought the story was kind of cliche and rote, and that's saying a lot for a Zelda game. But because I have a lot of patience for that stuff. But they've been delivering what seems like side story bits and not mission critical stuff that is super interesting to the story. By way of the glyphs on the ground. I don't know if Alex, you've interacted with some of those that give you kind of these kind of the background to what's happened here, and it's just sci-fi enough where I'm actually really digging it. It's got a neat little bent to it where it's like, okay, I kind of want to know what led up to all this. This is kind of interesting.
No, I think they've made something compelling out of like, hey, Again, Zelda stories are very hit or miss for me. It's usually like, okay, am I interested in this enough, to keep going through the quest or paying attention to what's actually happening here? I think there's enough here.
My favorite modern Zelda stories are when they try to loosely bring in other Zelda games as there is a cycle to these things, and in the past, or there's a prophecy in the future of this other thing that hints that the other Zelda games are on the continuum somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Like, thousands of years ago, the world was flooded, right? Or there's a prophecy in the future, there'll be a time travel. Like when the Zelda games hint at those things, it makes me very interested when they recognize their own bullshit.
As much as I enjoyed Wind Waker, I remember getting extremely excited at the end of that game when you go under the ocean and there's a Hyrule there.
Yeah, that's
I was like,
neat.
I was like, oh my god, am I going to get to like run around Hyrule and do stuff for a few hours? And then no, because that's not what that game was. But for a minute, I was like, oh man.
I mean, I think they directly reference Ocarina, right? Isn't it like isn't that the?
I think so.
Like the stained glass.
That's my recollection of it.
I think so. It's been a while.
It's cool. Like that stuff's always the coolest to me in a Zelda story, let's say. Otherwise, it's like fucking Ganon. It's gonna be Ganon. It's always Ganon.
It's Ganon.
Oh, you're a wizard. It's Ganon.
Mm-hmm.
That's Tears of the Kingdom. Still going strong there. I wonder if you could do an hour count in that game. It's funny they do. This is not spoiler, but it is. I thought it was very interesting. They roll up some of the DLC Breath of the Wild stuff, which, Brad, I don't know if you have out of the gate. Do you have the thing that tracks your progress on the map?
Yes, I own all the DLC for Breath of the Wild, and what is it? The Hero's Path mode, something like that.
So that's all rolled into this.
I've seen that in some like Twitter screenshots and stuff,
which is funny. Like just roll it all up and like, great, okay.
Is a motorcycle in there?
You build your own motorcycle.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I've been debating whether I should go track down the motorcycle or not.
Just go track down the motorcycle. Have fun in that game.
I mean, then that's gonna completely negate the presence of the horses, though.
Yeah,
I'll never want to tame another horse if I go get the motorcycle too early.
You tamed one. Go get the one that's like a mission critical one, and then just go get your motorcycle.
Yes, I have that quest. It's a pain. Yeah. I don't have enough stamina to get that horse.
Just go to the person who swaps hearts for stamina and drink a bunch of potions. Get your damn horse, and then come back.
Yeah.
I literally had a thing like that in Tears of the Kingdom where I was like, okay, we're doing this. I was like, let me go get a bunch of stamina potions and I'll just go do this thing. Because I don't want to come back to this. Tears of the Kingdom, I really like it. It's been out. It continues to be out.
Mm-hmm.
A game I did not think would get more DLC, but Forspoken, in Tanta We Trust, has a $12 DLC. I think they're just saying it's like an episode. It's fairly short. I did not finish it. I've heard playtimes of 2 to 4 hours.
Okay.
I don't know really what to think of it at this point. I'm a couple of hours, maybe like an hour change into it. It's weird. It's a weird thing to play feeling like you're never going to see more of this game ever. Like this was probably started production towards the end of Forspoken, not after its reception, and it feels like a thing that's like, I don't know, there's something sad about, like swan songish about this.
Does it kind of feel like going back and like watching one of those like post-credit teaser from one of the various DC things that never happened?
So I've heard that this ends on a huge cliffhanger.
Oh no.
So I'm curious to see how that plays out too.
Oh, that's a shame.
That's a choice.
Yeah. So it's a prequel. It's a post-game prequel to
Are you saying prequel?
Prequel. Well, I was trying to think if there's a funny
Frenchy
word
with me here. What are we doing?
Funny word to do that's like post-prequel. Like yeah, so you shouldn't pick it up until you've finished Forspoken, which for the three of us out there, this is there. It's $12.
I think a decent number of people finish that game, mostly because it isn't insanely long.
Yeah, it's not that long. It's I don't know if I like it so far. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Like, kind of shocked you actually went back to it.
I didn't hate Forspoken. It was okay. Like Forspoken's okay. I thought some of the story stuff was interesting. I wanted to see what they're going to do with the story stuff here, but they take away all your abilities. They start to kind of give you some new stuff. You're very underpowered in the beginning of this. I'm going to see it through just because it's very short, and I want to see where the story stuff goes. But I don't know. Forspoken just is kind of sad to me. That whole tale. It seemed like so much damn work, that game.
Yeah, they put a lot of money and a lot of effort into that thing.
Like a lot of people put a lot of hours and their lives into making Forspoken, and that thing just seemed to fall off the earth.
Yep.
Yeah.
When it came out.
that team has been disbanded
Already. What was it?
It was folded back into other stuff. Yeah.
Maybe disbanded is too strong, but yes, it's not a Luminous Productions is not it's not a brand anymore, or not. It wasn't a brand, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
like that team in and of itself doesn't really exist now.
Yeah, so I'll see how it goes. Again, it's $12, so I think it's probably priced accordingly. It's not like a $30 piece of DLC, but I have heard it's fairly short. Some people, when reading the reviews of it, at least the Steam reviews, were like, it's not bad because it's small in scope. It's got like a tight scope on it. But I think the people who are leaving Steam reviews are people who probably were way into Forspoken. So the people who are not coming back to this to touch it. That is out now, $12. I'm playing it over on the PlayStation 5. There's the PC version. Sunshine Shuffle, Alex.
Aha.
What's up with this? We saw a little of this on our grab bag stream.
Yeah, just want to briefly touch on this because I went and played a little bit more of it. It is a narrative game that also is a Texas Hold'em simulator with cute animals who cuss a lot. Or, at very least say very gruff, sometimes threatening things. It is from Strange Scaffold, the makers of Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator, and also the Airport Run for Dogs, which I don't remember the full phrasing of that title, but I'm not going to try. It's a comedy game, and it's pretty lightweight, but like the poker part of it is actually not bad, and the little story they are spinning with the cute animals who are all varying degrees of criminal is pretty neat, I think. If you are a poker night in the inventory kind of person, you might find something to like here.
Do they have any kind of local or I don't suspect online multiplayer that's in it at all? It's just
I have not even tried. I've just been playing the campaign. There might actually be something, but I have not messed with anything beyond just like what the story campaign is.
Can you bust out? Like, can you run out of money? Okay.
It's possible you can, but I mean, it you're playing through discrete games, and it's just sort of like try and get everyone's chips.
Okay, so is it broken up into like little vignettes or rounds or something like that?
Like there's a lot of dialogue, and sometimes that dialogue will be interrupted by what's happening in the hand, but then they'll just go right back to whatever the story thing that you were doing is.
Yeah.
And, it's Xavier Nelson, who is, I think, a very funny writer. Sometimes his games are not, like, terribly deep, but I feel like what they are doing here is pretty funny and pretty cute. And, it's not an overly expensive game. So, and as someone who likes poker, like, I think it's a good enough distraction for me.
Okay. Training.
Yeah.
Vulgar Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Is kind of the vibe.
It's, again, it's $9 on Steam right now, so, or on itch.io if you want it there.
That is a Sunshine Shuffle. That is also out now on the PC. None of us.
It's on Switch now too, by the way.
Oh, it is.
After the brief controversy about child gambling and what have you, I do believe it is now launched on Switch.
Okay, or we got it on Switch. None of us played Gollum.
No. I may have downloaded it this morning.
That none of us has played it. We can't speak to it.
I don't really want to.
That might be something I fire up on a stream.
There are two things I could say about Gollum.
Okay.
One is I saw a lot of people talking some shit about that game. Two, the devs put out an apology to apologize.
That was the part I was going to bring up.
Yeah, for the bugs, which is look. We've had a lot of those. They're not alone in that regard.
No. But this is a thing that I'm going to echo a sentiment out there that I really wish we stopped trying to make developers have to post Notes app apologies every time a game is bad. Like, I'm not saying that bad games should just be like accepted and it's like, it can't be that bad. All games are good. No, that's not the attitude I'm taking here. What I'm saying is that making developers like, prostrate themselves in front of an audience to be like, we beg your forgiveness for this game turning out shitty, despite the fact that I guarantee you the vast majority of people who worked on that game knew it was not in a releasable state, but whoever was in charge of them said, no, you have to. Like, that shit just feels bad. And the people who demand this, I'm telling you right now, if you spent one day in the PS2 GameCube era, you would die.
I think putting out a buggy or broken game is not acceptable. Like, if you know, stuff gets out there and it's bad, we do live in a fairly better age of digital refunds. Not great, and I wouldn't even say
it's
good by any means.
It's not a flawless system by any stretch.
I think demanding apologies is a weird thing, but also if your game is bad, that's one thing. If it's crashing or unplayable on the platform, I think that's
pretty bad.
If it's a technical mess, and I don't actually know that much about Gollum, I feel weird and uncomfortable when I see those apologies things, because the teams that work on stuff, you're right, they know these things are not heading out the door.
These are executive decisions. Like, these are decisions being made by people who need to get shit out in front of a quarter, you know?
Yeah, your anger should always be directed at the business people.
Yeah.
Who determined how well-resourced the development was and how quickly it was forced to wrap up.
And I'll say, like, that Gollum game never looked that appealing to me to begin with. It was always a very strange concept to me, but, you know, it's absolutely the kind of thing that you could see getting churned out during that PS2 GameCube era, where people were just putting any kind of weird-ass license thing out they could. But at the same time, like, the state they released it in was not acceptable by any stretch, but I don't know what people were actually expecting from a Gollum game. You know, like, I don't know what level of disappointment people actually have with this thing, because it always seemed like a really weird sell to me.
Yeah, it's not like this was Cyberpunk 2077 that was poised to be the de facto game of the year before it came out and turned out to be a mess. Like, I don't know who was clamoring for this in the first place.
I mean, in a way, they made a game that is every bit as, like, hideously ugly and, like, fundamentally broken as its protagonist. That's art.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is put out by Daedalic, which I like Daedalic's games as a publisher generally. I was kind of surprised to see them get this game as a licensed game, but, you know, they've put out a lot of point-and-click adventure games. They put out...
it's them.
Yeah, that Barrow Trauma game, which we played. They put out a lot of interesting, smaller games. So knowing that, and their kind of catalog of what they've published before, a big marquee Lord of the Rings games never seemed like a thing they would connect with. You know what I mean? Like expectations for what this game would be from me, from this publisher, were probably pretty tempered, but we did not play it. But it is a big release out there. Something that we maybe we'll look at on a stream or something, but
I've got it here. It's under consideration.
Okay.
There is a
curiosity.
On Steam, there is a Sindarin VO pack for $2.99.
Okay.
So
gonna get you with the deal or the add-ons. Jeez,
yes.
Sorry, I'm looking at it now on Steam too. There's like a decent amount of emotes packs.
Dude,
I take it back. What are we doing?
I have obtained the game and the Sindarin voiceover, so
please make sure if you play it, get the emotes pack, because I need to see Gollum, what his emotes are. Hopefully he does a cool dance.
My understanding is they are disappointing even by the extremely low standards you would expect.
Okay. All right. That's Lord of the Rings Gollum, a game we did not play.
What a time.
But is out, in a game we have talked about before. I felt weird not mentioning it at all. That's going to do it for the games for this week. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back with the news. Stick around. This week's show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Brad and Alex, I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. You know if you want or need a VPN. You know. And if you
know that you know, and you know.
You know what you did.
And if you don't know, you probably should know. ExpressVPN is out there, and I've actually used ExpressVPN. I've had it for a couple of years now. Their speeds are pretty good. I find their services. I used it when I went to travel. I've had it since. We used to travel at like Giant Bomb. I use it in hotels. I use it on public Wi-Fi. Their speeds are pretty good. Their locations are pretty good, at least from what the locations I was using. If you're traveling and want to go watch your shows, let's say while you're in another country and they're region locked, maybe you can use ExpressVPN to go access your shows from there. Or listen,
I need my stories. Doesn't matter what kind of vacation I'm on. Doesn't matter how far afield I am of civilized society. I need my stories.
If you're sitting in in a hotel room in Italy and you've got to watch, I don't know, name a show, Succession. I don't know.
That's a show.
That's what people are talking about, and you can't get it there. Maybe ExpressVPN could help tunnel you back into Succession.
What you do with your VPN is your business. It's virtual. It's private. No questions asked.
If you want to get way more shows and save money while you're at it, go to expressvpn.com/Nextlander. And don't forget to use the link to get 3 extra months free. That's expressvpn.com/Nextlander. expressvpn.com/Nextlander to learn more. Thanks, ExpressVPN. And we are back. And of course, what would the news be without two things? One, an update on the Microsoft Blizzard acquisition, or a story on AI. This time I feel like we decided to go on the story on AI, the artificial intelligence. Brad Shoemaker, how is AI affecting us this very minute, this second?
I think both of those topics have become fairly played out, unless there's something actually momentous to talk about, which in this case there is. Nvidia has announced a thing at Computex called Avatar Cloud Engine.
Oh, the ACE team.
Which is them getting pretty heavily into the generative AI for game development middleware space.
I think we all saw this coming. I think,
kind of yes and no. I mean, yeah, obviously they're behind machine learning type stuff.
Well, if not Nvidia, then somebody is going to fold in AI into every aspect of game development.
Yeah, that's definitely been happening and will continue to happen. I mean, the thing here is that, from crypto to NFTs to quote unquote AI, there's like a bajillion fly by night startups that'll be gone next week trying to push things. But, Nvidia is far and away the biggest hardware provider of the type of hardware you need to run machine learning applications in the world. So for them to be leaning into this hard seems like a pretty big declaration that this is not going anywhere in game development anytime soon. But the thing I was going to say, though, is the only difference here is that it occurred to me NVIDIA was also probably the biggest company enabling the crypto boom a few years ago. But in that case, they put limiters on the hardware to try to discourage miners from buying their cards for that purpose because nobody could get them for games, right? Whereas here, this is them, very directly enabling this in a pretty major way.
Well, so this isn't necessarily just, or this ACE stuff isn't necessarily just for speeding along development. The story you've posted here goes into how this could affect the gameplay or how this could manifest on the playing side of it if all is to be believed by NVIDIA's assertions or promotions here. Brad, what are they saying generative AI is primed to do, or they would like it to do?
Well, this is a suite of tools for voice recognition, text to speech, and probably most crucially here, the real-time dynamic writing.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Real-time
Nemotum. NEMOT. There's a lot of acronyms in their whole thing here.
Kind of the idea is essentially sort of endless interactive NPC speech being generated on the fly.
I hate this.
Which they put up a demo. They put up a demo. First of all, the demo is in 1:59 aspect ratio. Yeah, I think that's probably because of the aspect ratio of the screen at the Computex stage, if I had to guess. I don't know. It's
gotta be. I don't know. It's a little
the
difficult
widest
to watch.
widescreen video I have ever seen.
Yeah.
I might actually be able to tell you what the aspect ratio is. 3.56 to 1.
Okay, great.
That's pretty wide.
It's pretty wide.
It's a good looking demo, but we're not here to talk about graphics. Of course, it's good looking. But yes, this is essentially like a human player talking in real time with their voice to an AI that is having both the text written on the fly and then turned into speech on the fly.
So it's Milo then.
Kind of.
This proof of concept from NVIDIA is terrible.
It's pretty rough.
But you know that it's going to get better, and we've seen how fast this stuff goes, but this is not going to sell anybody that this current state of it is all that.
Yeah, it's like it's squarely between like it's amazing that this is even possible and also this is completely unusable by any modern video game standards.
Yeah, there's no way you could release this without an editor getting a hold of it and like, at least doing something to it.
It's just incredibly robotic.
The performance is flat from the text to speech. The answers are robotic and not natural at all. And the mouth stuff actually looks okay. I think that makes it even worse because it looks like this person who is very well rendered is giving this flat answer. This would work much better if this were they did this demo with somebody talking to a computer or an AI. It would be much more believable.
I don't want that. Like, I don't want an experience that is not something that is contained, that is not, crafted by a person. Say whatever the hell you want about the nature of game barks and NPC dialogue and the way that things are presented in modern video games. The thing you can say right now is that even at their worst in big scale video games, a lot of NPC stuff is far and away better than it used to be. And I think a big thing is that, like, ultimately, in the end, even if it is low-level writers doing a lot of this stuff, it's still a person. A person is crafting the things that are being said to the player. They are creating a character, even if it is an extremely minor, unimportant character. There is someone at least thinking about what that character should be saying to the player. I will never trust one of these systems to actually emulate that sort of thing in a way that doesn't feel like... No matter how much they refine this technology, it's not going to be what I want from that experience, because I'm not coming to this stuff because I want a robot person who can think. Mm-hmm. I'm coming to this because I want a story. I want an experience from someone who is a writer that crafted a story for me, however minor that might be. And in the end, a lot of this stuff, as much as they want to talk around like how important it is, how it's going to, change the face of game development, what they are actually talking about here is changing labor and finding ways to undermine labor with this stuff. I mean, I'm going to give you a quote right now from a story with Bobby Kotick from today that went out on Variety. Where in between grousing about the aggressive labor unions that were trying to, disrupt his company, he also put out this quote: "Playing games is such a visceral experience. We're getting to the point where the game itself is able to create its own content in real time. That will be exquisite."
I think we're talking about two different things here. I think we're talking about the technology versus the ethics of the technology.
But they're the same thing.
I don't agree with that. I think this technology is not going away and we have to pursue the ethics of the technology. I think that's where we should be putting that's where I would be putting my energy, because I don't think you're going to get this to go away.
Well, good news. The government, I believe, has just anointed an AI task force.
So it's problem solved.
To start investigating these issues. I'm sure they will do a bang-up job.
Yeah, like, I don't think it's going to go away, but I think we have to, like, I would put my support into labor unions, into making sure people have jobs. Well, that's what I'm saying. This technology is not just going to disappear. If it's available and we don't address it, people are just going to lose their jobs.
Well,
if we acknowledge it's here and try to protect the people who will make it or use it, that's where I want to put my energy.
But you're seeing that right now. Like, that fight is happening right now with the Writers Guild.
Yeah, it's kind of a nightmare. Like, I'm not saying it's great. And what I want is not for a robot to make the game. I want to have a human fill in the lore that can a generative AI in a tech space could draw from. So I think there's some nuance to be had there in not saying, hey, this whole AI thing, which encompasses a lot of different technologies, right? Like the lip flap stuff is kind of neat, and I bet that saves a lot of people from having to do the bad lip sync we've seen in games.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there aren't applications where you can use this to streamline existing work that is done by people. Like, but the thing is, like, the way this stuff is talked about and the way it is presented now, there's really no other way to read it other than to say that the people who are pushing this technology the hardest and for, and in the places they're pushing it is because they want to deal with labor as little as possible. Like, they want to excise as much of the labor problem that they think is there in order to, streamline things so that they can make things more efficiently and make more money off of them. And I think the problem right now is that, like, you are seeing as I mentioned with the WGA stuff, when they were in negotiations with the movie studios about, like a big part of the current WGA strike is more about streaming numbers and, making sure that residuals are paid to people and that stuff. They threw in a thing in there that was literally, they thought was a softball win for their union of saying, hey, we just want tighter regulations on how AI is used to generate scripts and how it is used, in performance. And the studios immediately balked to that and said, we are not negotiating on this point at all. And the reason I bring that up is because this is the same mentality that I feel like this technology is being applied to in video games.
Yeah, I mean, corporations are always going to exploit and misuse technology and people as much as they can, because they're corporations. That's exactly what they do.
Like you saw, I don't know if you've seen the response to that Cyan Worlds game that just came out.
Firmament apparently has used some AI-assisted writing for I'm not clear what.
And also some AI-generated voices in that game, too.
Oh, jeez.
I have not seen the reaction to it.
It's not good.
The game or the reaction to it?
The reaction to it.
Because I didn't think that stuff was that good in that game to begin. Like, I don't think we're at a point where it's mistakable, but we will get to a point where it could take over.
Yeah.
And people will take that shortest route unless we put protections in.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think we're on the same page in that we both want the protections. The thing is, I can't embrace the technology in any way, shape, or form until those protections exist. Because right now, the way this stuff is being talked about and the way it's being presented, as if it's a foregone conclusion, and we're just going to have to deal.
Yeah, I mean, the hope is on the low end as like more open source and democratized applications of this technology come about, like maybe more small developers will be able to use it to get a leg up or to at least tread water, but for the time being, like merely deploying the stuff is so like capital intensive that only the biggest companies are going to be doing it at any large scale for the foreseeable future, right?
Sure.
This is going to require large amounts of cloud processing and stuff to even use stuff like this. So it's going to be probably the Activisions of the world putting this to use in any significant way for quite some time, I would assume. I don't know. I feel like I kind of get why people are protective of something like writing in a way that they are not of like I feel like Speed Tree is the go-to example here of like
Sure.
Classic procedural generation in video game development, and like there's not really there was not an artisanal 3D tree modeling scene pre-existing before Speed Tree came about. It was just your game had 2 tree models, right?
Yeah.
So, but like, writing is something that gets into the territory of like feeling like it requires a human soul to do right. It's a discipline that needs like
it's an actual creative art,
like a certain amount, like a certain amount of or a significant amount of like skill and heart and soul to do well. So, like, I definitely get the much more intense skepticism around this kind of technology encroaching on that kind of creative territory.
I think I would feel less this way if every person I see championing this technology wasn't talking about it in a very like, finally, art has been democratized. Anyone can make this stuff. Like I can churn out my fucking 90 sci-fi novels a year and throw them on Amazon because ChatGPT has fucking revolutionized shit. And it's just like, it's missing the point, but very much on purpose. It is sailing over the point in order to make it so that just it feels like the thing you are doing is the inevitable conclusion.
I mean, for that matter, the NFT bro to crypto bro to AI bro pipeline like went into effect overnight in
it's just one straight pipe, basically.
Efficient way, and it's really amazing to watch those people and immediately see the way they talk and realize that all of their positions are basically just based on like envy and spite.
Yeah.
It is the glee with which they basically celebrate like the end of human artists is like, A, it's like delusional.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not going to happen anytime soon. But B, like it's just fucking gross. But like it's also worth trying to set those people aside because they are not worth consideration because fuck them.
No.
And also like look at the technology and actually try to understand what the realities of it are, because that's kind of why Nvidia making this declaration is a big deal. Like it's clearly not going away.
Yeah.
And I think that drives people into these kind of maximalist positions of all of it is terrible. And I think there's a lot of really positive stuff to come out of AI assisted technologies that are helping to move things forward as assisted tools, and research and even in game development, right? That are going to be helpful. But without guardrails in place, without strong labor unions, without making sure that they are tools and not crutches, I think we are going to wind up in our worst nightmare. And I honestly don't have the faith we will be able to legislate our way out of it, just given everything. Like, we just don't have those protections.
I mean, we can't legislate anything right now.
So. In the United States, I kind of look to Europe, maybe the EU can figure it out. Like, the United States is just, we can't even get our heads out of our own budget ass. But I do look at this stuff as, this is not great. This Nvidia stuff is not great, but in proof of concept, it is where things are going to head. And, I've always been fascinated with things like Dr. Svezzo, things that try to mimic human stuff in games or in interaction. I think that this is an interesting way. You still have to, hopefully, there are going to be humans involved in the training, the lore, the feeding, the prompts.
Well, they will, because all the stuff they're training it with is stuff stolen from humans.
In a less super cynical take on it, if it is feeding off of your own lore that you have made, in a way, your lore Bible, and can work off of those things, would be it's going to be integrated. How to get the protections in place as it integrates into workplaces, I think, is going to be really the most important thing. And it's a real shame that we have kneecapped most of the leverage and union powers that the workers have in those spaces, because it's not a great position to be in, right?
No.
To have,
it's not by accident.
No, to have undermined a lot of the power of the workers to then set them up to be like, right now it's in a place where I don't think you can get by on this stuff. It's a supplement.
Yeah, like when I see comments like from Kotick, that just kind of reeks of classic executive hubris, because like part of me wants to be like, and the same thing in like the screenwriting field right now, part of me wants to be like, they want to try putting out a bunch of content based solely on this technology. Like, let them, let them try, because look at the quality of this stuff right now. Like, that's not going to pass muster with anybody. But then, it's
going to get better.
That there is a danger there to just saying, fucking go for it. Like, let's see you do it. But then, yes, these things are going to improve, and that's another reason that it's worth like keeping track of this stuff and understanding what the capabilities are, because it's something we are going to be living with for the foreseeable future.
And it's and anybody who is into this technology in the more academic way is ringing alarm bells of basically really coming out in force now to say, hey, pump the brakes. We need to kind of get ahead of this stuff before we try to capitalize on every middle class job out there and wipe it out.
Look, you don't come to me for the non-cynical takes, okay? Like, this is what I have. It's
a very real take.
Yeah.
I'm of two minds of like, this is cool and we need protections, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a neat thing. This is a thing as a kid I've always wanted to see, which is be able to talk to your NPCs in a more natural way. But I hope it doesn't have to come at the cost of the people, the industry I like, turning into Bobby Kotick and a ChatGPT session, right? Like that's.
I mean, it all boils down to who you're putting it in the hands of.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The AI stuff, I absolutely think it's going to change the world, and I absolutely believe it's not going to be legislated in a way that is going to benefit the people who are most at risk.
Yeah,
like those two things I believe are true. It's just human nature. Time and time again, they will use the technology for the most disgusting things.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if it is like a breakthrough technology, what's the game that is currently slated to have some of this in it? Is it Stalker? Stalker 2. It's going to have audio Two-Face, supposedly in it. So we'll see how audio Two-Face works. Their naming is terrible.
It's an interesting video, if nothing else.
It's going to get better, but it ain't there yet, Jack. And of course, if you didn't pick up the tone from what we were talking about, protections and unions for the people who are
make Bobby Kotick mad. Start a union today.
I double checked. Audio Two-Face is basically the dynamic facial animation against the speech track. So algorithmic versions of lip flap have been in use for 20 years at this point.
Oh yeah, that's not a totally new thing.
that one is relatively benign as these things go. I really think, I mean, the VO thing is also a thing because that has the potential to take work away from voice actors, but I really think it's the writing part, because that really is the backbone of any story, right? Like if you excise the humanity from that part of it, like what do you even have at that point? It's hard to argue that it's still art at that point.
I think, again, and I hate to sound like I'm trying to defend it, but I think it is trying to take your lore you have written and use that as the proprietary basis. Of course, you're going to be training it on natural interactions, but hopefully you're not just talking about, or NVIDIA is not saying, hey, we will gin up the lore part for you. I think their pitch is...
hope.
That's the next step.
I guarantee there are executives out there who think they're going to be the ones feeding the lore Bible into the robot.
Right, yes. Just scan it in.
Like, what do we need any writers for? I could come up with the stuff myself.
Yeah, well, I think that already happens in some regard, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, there was a thread going around on Twitter. I don't remember who it was from, basically arguing that we're in the executive auteurship era of cinema. Basically talking about the degree to which executives touch literally every piece of filmmaking at this point. Nice. Like every page of the script has to be approved.
I mean, there's a reason why there are all these movies coming out about, hey, the true story of a product you're familiar with.
The thing you loved was a nightmare.
Yeah, like no movie is just allowed to be a movie anymore. Everything's got to be a franchise starter, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, it's just expensive too. Like, just got to tear it all down. What's our next story here? Hold on, let me get back to my notes here. Big companies out there not squashing the little guys. Oops, nope, that's not that story. Nintendo.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely not that story.
Nintendo. So you have this story here from Video Games Chronicle that is basically talking about how Dolphin wanted to have the kind of a GameCube and Wii emulator wanted to have a release on Steam, and Nintendo said, no, that's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, I think the big thing was by having a Steam thing, it was essentially positioning it right onto people who have Steam Decks, and would have made it, just a simple one-step process to get that software on there.
Sure, I hadn't even thought about that.
But so the reason that the cease and desist was sent, and the reason that this has been pulled from Steam listings, I mean, look, there is a certain amount of the Nintendo is extremely litigious, and they extremely do not like it when you pirate their video games, more so than just about any other company. But especially, let's say, in the last 3 weeks. Yeah. But there is one catch to this story that does make it a little bit different than just a destroying all the emulators kind of story. So somewhere along the way, Dolphin started including what is essentially the Nintendo trademarked crypto cryptography, the whatever it is that sort of makes it so that the Wii common key, more or less. And that is in Dolphin. Like, they have taken the thing that made, Wii games essentially only work on Wii hardware, and they have somehow put that into the software, which is not a thing that emulators normally do.
Yeah, you really have to make sure you avoid any kind of intellectual property in the form of software or BIOSes or ROMs or anything like that.
Yeah.
That are lifted directly from hardware. That's why, there's pretty much every system from CD on, so like Sega CD and PlayStation on, if you are trying to emulate those, you have to go find a BIOS yourself. Like, they will not distribute the BIOS because that's them distributing
protected
intellectual property that is not legal for them to do. Of course, what the end user goes and does is their business. Of course, they dumped it from their own console.
Right, yes, exactly. That's right.
Who wouldn't?
Nintendo, has a claim to that intellectual property, though their statement here is that they're saying that this stifles innovation and creativity, but, when push comes to shove, this is not a strong position for Dolphin.
Oh, that statement is absurd, of course.
Yeah,
but
on its face, it doesn't make any goddamn sense. But
again, a corporation's going to say what they're going to say to justify their actions. But yeah, it seems like the Dolphin developers really kind of stepped in it here.
And the reality is that, like, as pro emulation as I am, and generally, let's say piracy agnostic as I am, I think there are certain things that you just have to kind of avoid in order to keep yourself in the legal gray area. Yeah. And it sounds like they did not do that here.
Yeah, it's protecting yourself, doing your own due diligence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting watching, like, multiple Switch emulators in development, because there were those Nintendo leaks in the last few years, like massive amounts of source code and assets and stuff leaked from Nintendo development, and seeing people talk about, like, which of those emulators is definitely using, like, a fresh from the ground up, like, clean room approach.
Yeah.
And which ones are like, they might be using some Nintendo code in there. It's unclear. Or, it's like, ideally you really want to avoid the temptation to straight up go take source code that has been leaked and put it in your thing, because that is super not going to pass muster legally.
Yeah. So
this seems to skirt that area.
And they are they have their multiple DMCAs, and now I think they're branching out into other various GitHubs and.
Yeah, that's not just Dolphin. They've been going after some other dumping tools, it looks like. Recently, I mean, clearly, Zelda leak probably started 800 fires at Nintendo HQ. So maybe unsurprising to see this happening, but they didn't go after Dolphin. They only went after Dolphin on Steam, for what it's worth.
Yeah, like the Dolphin software is still out there, and as far as it is still pretty regularly accessible. So
the repo is still up. I don't think they've gone after the actual source code yet.
Oh, they will. Oh, this one was interesting. The Last of Us multiplayer.
Yeah.
So the Last of Us multiplayer has been kind of been talked about for a while. It's been a little radio silent for a bit. This I thought was interesting on the heels of Marathon and Bungie. It has been reported that The Last of Us multiplayer is going to be delayed officially. This is from Naughty Dog. That they are kind of going to reevaluate. They're working on a single player thing. They want to share more soon. All of that stuff. They're grateful to everybody. They put up their tweets, and then this story here reported again from Video Games Chronicles kind of says that Sony brought in Bungie, who is being looked at, I guess, as the overseer of all online services within Sony now, and was like, this isn't there. This isn't keeping kind of online player engagement like it should, and maybe they are dictating, changing the scope and taking people off of that project over at Naughty Dog, which is kind of, it's interesting in the Last of Us multiplayer stuff, but it's also very interesting in the role Bungie is taking over at Sony to kind of oversee their larger online pushes over there, because Sony hasn't had a lot of first-party online,
not in
stuff.
recent memory,
Yeah.
no.
So-
And I mean, this is interesting in the sense that, like, everyone after that game did not appear on the most recent Sony showcase. Everyone was kind of like, well, where is that thing?
Yeah.
And almost immediately, this information got out there.
Yeah, it was also funny to watch. This originally came out of a Jason Schreier report on Bloomberg. It was funny to watch Naughty Dog tweet that announcement about the delay before the Bloomberg story ran. It seemed like a clear example of, I assume he probably sought comment from them directly, but they maybe also heard about it elsewhere, and we're just like, all right, let's get ahead of this thing.
Yeah,
let's just get it out there before the story runs. Man, thanks, Bungie.
Look, maybe if they're changing the scope of it, it's possible that thing really wasn't there. I don't know.
The thing they cite is that in their their play testing and research, that it's not that the game wasn't in any way there, but they didn't believe that it had, like, the long-term potential that a live service game needs to be successful.
Yeah, that's the rough part of this to me. It's like right up there with the AI stuff in terms of shitty business trends in the games business of, this might have been a fun game.
Right.
Apparently it was not going to keep people buying season passes long enough.
That's right.
Was the problem. I mean, maybe the game is troubled and actually not going well. Who can say? But
yeah,
Bungie raised questions about the project's ability to keep players engaged for a long period of time, this says.
Yeah, and I don't.
And the unfortunate thing is, at this stage, you have to be able to do that because nobody's going to give you a chance if people start dropping off after a few months.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, on the other hand, like, look at how many live service games have shut down in, I started to say in disgrace, which is a little harsh, but like a ton of live service games have come and gone in the last 3-4 years.
I mean, if not in disgrace, then certainly in ignoble fashion. Like it just kind of petered out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for them. Is what I mean. I don't mean disgraceful is not the right word, but it's more just like it's a hugely crowded market, and those games are expensive to maintain. And seeing so many of them, like, think about how much work went into them, and then they only make it 6 months or a year, and then they go offline. It's So, like, on the other hand, maybe it's good that they are, aggressively cutting things they don't think are going to make it, because a lot of these have failed already.
Do we have any idea what their quote, like, new quote, brand new single player experience is? Is that an unannounced thing at this point?
No, they said a while back that they were working on a brand new single player thing, but that's about it.
Okay. Do we know if is that in the Last of Us universe as it's in this post, or is that a Naughty Dog?
Nobody knows.
Okay.
Except Naughty Dog.
And maybe Bungie. Maybe so.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
I don't know. Yes, is that Last of Us 3 or not is a pressing question for sure. Or are they finally doing something new again?
Speaking of pressing things, Alan Wake 2, they said the Remedy said, we are not going to have a disc version of Alan Wake 2. They went on to elaborate about costs and, keeps games at $60. And
yeah, I think that came out of the FAQ on the game that went up after the showcase last week.
Yeah, which, okay. Sure.
I think their rationale is pretty sound here.
Look,
like they said not doing a disc helps keep the game at $60.
Yeah.
They cited the number of discless consoles that are being sold these days, and actually the big one to me, I think about this all the time with retail stuff. They basically said we don't want to ship a game on disc that requires a massive download as soon as you put it in.
I mean, that's like very real.
That's the stuff. That's the stuff to me that really raises the question of what the value is of a physical release if it's basically unusable without an internet connection and a huge download.
Yeah, like we talked about that with day one patches and the like, and sometimes stuff is near unplayable. Stuff has to go gold weeks, if not earlier. I don't know, a week. I don't know what the turnaround time is now to press a disc, but you're getting day one patches, if not patches up for the first month that are fixing game-breaking bugs sometimes. Well, that's it. Case closed. No Alan Wake 2 disc.
Yeah, I mean, some people, you could see people on Twitter not happy about it, like people going like, well, I'm not buying it until you put out a disc. But maybe not like the firestorm of criticism you would have expected years ago.
Yeah.
No, I think people have largely bought into the digital ecosystems. Like, there are certainly people who are clinging to physical media, and look, in most other formats, I most certainly am. But, like, we all have these consoles. They all have, well, some of them have hard drives that are big enough to handle the content that's being generated. And I feel like you said, in a situation where most of these games have to be online all the time, and let's just say there has never been less of a marketplace for used current games. I just kind of feel like this is the way it's been going.
Yeah, it's a big distinction to me between like getting a rare movie on disc versus this, because if you get a rare movie on disc, you got the movie.
Yeah.
It's like you don't need to connect your Blu-ray player to the internet to see the last act.
Not anymore. Remember those Blu-ray extras that wanted to...
Yes.
BD Live has gone the way of the dodo. But yeah, like a disc that's not usable without massive updates. It's just not the same thing.
THQ Nordic agrees with you in a way.
They would.
Brad, what did they write here, if you don't mind reading?
They put up a cheeky tweet with a smiley face in it about the fact that they published Alan Wake on PC way back when. Although, was that even THQ Nordic, or was that the old THQ?
I think that was old THQ.
Yeah, it's not even like, I don't know if that is, I'm not sure that passes muster, folks.
Look, just because they're wearing the skin of their predecessor doesn't mean that they aren't responsible for all the things their predecessor did.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically offering on Twitter here to publish a physical version of Alan Wake 2.
Or to do the work to publish a physical version,
Yeah.
not necessarily. There was nothing pro bono sounding about it at all.
Yeah. I mean, they are trying to gin up a deal here or something.
Yeah.
Or gin up public support for it or something.
I don't know.
Who knows if it'll come to pass, but it's pretty notable that I think this is the biggest game I have seen without a physical release to date. Probably.
Yeah. I mean, for stuff that's live service, can you get any of those Destiny expansions on disc, even though you have to be connected to play them? Okay.
No.
Yeah. Like there's a bunch, like most games I think are just online baked in. So
yeah. Well, I guess go ahead.
No, I'm going to tell you right now, I think we are maybe a couple of years, maybe a few years away, where the only physical games that are being put out by major companies are Call of Duty, Madden, and Nintendo games.
Sure. I mean, this is a single-player game, though. Like, it's, the Destiny stuff, you have to be online to play anyway, but this is also notable because, like, I don't think this has any online features.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't know. They definitely haven't, or as far as I could tell from their announcement, it wasn't online. Maybe there will be. Maybe there'll be some amazing online thing. But either way,
sign of the times.
Yeah, I mean, I would be bummed if this weren't getting pressed anymore. It's because they turn stuff off from stores all the time in terms of purchasing.
Oh yeah.
So even if you have to get the patch for a game, the patch might be available, but you might not be able to buy the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes things will still connect to back ends if you own the thing already to support the thing you own, but you can't buy it from a store. Let's say if Remedy gets bought by somebody and they pull all of Remedy's stuff, or Remedy goes out of business and you can't get it on a digital storefront, that means Alan Wake 2 will no longer be available to be purchased.
Yeah, well, the difference that's come about, and I can't say that Alan Wake 2 is the case here, but like there are now games shipping where you basically can't play them off disc at all. Like it's a different situation than like it's maybe an imperfect build of the game that doesn't have all the bugs fixed, but at least you can play it.
Yeah.
Like what I got from their language was this was the type of situation where the game wouldn't even, like, you would basically get stuck at a you need to update screen before you could even play the game. Because if that's the case, there's actually no difference between the digital and disc version if you literally can't even play the game with just the disc. Well,
that's what I mean. Like a lot of times storefronts will take down the game for purchase, but you can still get support for patches and stuff from a game through whatever it connects to in a backend, like whereas you can't get a copy of the game, but if you own the game, you might be able to pull a patch.
Sure.
So yeah, roll that one up there. Support discs. That's going to do it for the news. That's the news for today. We also have an email address, podcast@nextlander.com. That is podcast@nextlander.com. Brad, any emails in the old email bin for us this week?
I guess we could do one here.
Let's take one.
From Paul. The further I get away from Sony's presentation last week, the more I wonder about it. There was hardly any VR talk, and most of the games were cross-platform. I believe Microsoft even released a tweet essentially saying, look at all the games coming to Xbox. And it was mostly games from Sony's event. I'm curious your thoughts on if Sony might have held back announcements and first-party games given the ongoing fight about the Microsoft and Activision Blizzard merger. Do you think Sony held back games because they've been pushing Microsoft is going to hold first-party games from coming out on PlayStation narrative? Might be awkward for Microsoft to turn around and say, look at all the games not coming out to Xbox that Sony just showed off.
I'm not that conspiratorial about it. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was that conversation at some point. But the thing is, I think if they had stuff to show that was like big first-party stuff that felt ready, they would have done it.
Yeah, for sure. Looking at the response out there. And, clearly we've gotten word that the Last of Us thing was just not even in a state to show. But yeah, looking at the, like, people were not super thrilled with that presentation overall.
It was not a thrilling presentation. It had some stuff, but none of it was, like, the biggest stuff felt like known quantities by and large.
People definitely wanted more first-party stuff, and they didn't get it. And so, yeah, I think that if they had that stuff and chose not to show it, that was probably not the right move.
like the people that are even aware of the Activision, Blizzard, and Microsoft deal pale in comparison to the people that just want good Sony games to come out for a console. You know, it's like,
Yes.
that's pretty insider stuff to even be following. I mean, even though it's one of the biggest mergers and acquisitions in the history of mergers and acquisitions, it still is not going to penetrate as deep as like people just want to be like, damn, those are some good Sony games. I should get a PS5, or I'm excited about that. And I think that's what Sony would want versus making some, I think, like you said, Alex, conspiratorial case maybe for them tanking their own press conference to say Microsoft's going to have it all.
I just don't think it benefits them in the long run to do that. You know, like as much as there is this ongoing fight with Microsoft and regulatory bodies about that deal, it does not really benefit Sony in the long run to make a big deal about a showing like this and then just show Spider-Man. You know, like if those other games were in a state where they felt like they were ready to show them, or at least even give you a tease of them, they absolutely would have done that because this is their time of year to do that.
Yeah. I mean, let's see what Microsoft has to show first party in a couple of weeks here. I'm not sure it's going to be that much more fleshed out, but
90 minutes of Starfield.
they're doing a separate Starfield event, aren't they?
I think so.
Yes, right. There is that stream. I mean, that might be a deeper dive. I wouldn't be shocked if they at least show something like a new trailer or something at the main thing.
Yeah.
You know, they've got games announced. Forza,
yeah,
Everwild, Fable, Perfect Dark. Like, surely some of those will be ready to show something on.
I don't know. I would still be surprised if we saw Fable. Maybe an Everwild. Forza for sure. I could see Forza.
I think Perfect Dark is probably the longest announced game on that list.
Well, Forza's coming out this year, so they have to show it.
Yeah, Forza for sure will get something.
We'll see it soon. It's only a couple of weeks off, but like it was okay. Nothing really got me too excited for their Sony showcase, but video games,
I think just given the scale of it and given the timing of it, we were kind of hoping for something a little more meaningful coming out of it.
Yeah, I'm ready to believe you. That's going to do it for our emails. Again, you can email us at podcast@nextlander.com. That's going to do it for this week's show. The games we talked about here this week, in case you missed them, we had Star Trek, Street Fighter 6, Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, System Shock, Forspoken, in Tanta We Trust, that's the DLC, and Sunshine Shuffle, that's the cute little animals playing poker while talking about murder.
And various other things.
We got the Watchcast going on, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
We have ended the Some Dudes Are Coming to Kill Us.
We survived. We
are up to the Lynchian, nightmarish, weird.
We may not survive.
So Lynch is coming to kill us.
Yeah.
We kicked this off this week with recording
Blue Velvet.
Boy, you can hear our thoughts on that going up next Monday. Alex, what's going on with the Watchcast? Want to let folks know?
Yeah, so we're changing up the schedule a little bit on account of I'm in the process of buying a house, and the end of this month and early next month may be pretty hectic for me. So we're going to take a couple of weeks off at in that time period. But in the lead up to doing Twin Peaks Season 1, which we are going to push to July, we are doing a handful of David Lynch films. As Benny mentioned, we already have recorded Blue Velvet. At the last one we'll be doing this month will be Wild at Heart. And right now, if you are in our Mission Control and Mysterious Benefactor tiers over on the Patreon, you can vote on which the third David Lynch film would be out of the choices of Eraserhead, The Elephant Man, or Dune. And if I'm being completely realistic here, you actually should just vote for Eraserhead or Dune, because they are beating The Elephant Man in a way that is, I almost want to stop the fight.
Let the Elephant Man walk out with some dignity.
Indeed. It's either Eraserhead or Dune. So pick your poison.
Okay. And then, like you said, we'll be back to do some more after that when we start with Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
Twin Peaks.
Looking forward to that.
We've got a bunch of stuff up on the site. We've got the Ramblecast up. We've got the Watchcast up from last week, which was Dread, as some guys tried to get him. I'm no spoilers here.
Can't kill Dread.
Maybe he makes it. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Those are over at the patreon.com/Nextlander, where you can find a bunch of tiers and find a tier that's right for you. A bunch of stuff over there. We have one tier, though, the Mysterious Benefactor tier, that gets their names read on this here show, and I have the honor of reading those names for you this week, beginning with RRE, John Richardson, Kelly F., James Smith, Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, hashtag Bunny Crimes, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, RazGriz2, hashtag Arrest Will Smith for his flat sheet crimes, Brian Murphy, Trevor and Adrian R., Randy Duax, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese.
What the hell did Will Smith do?
I don't know.
It came to light recently that he does not use a fitted sheet
Wait, what?
on the bed.
What? How does he even buy sheets?
He tucks a flat sheet under the mattress.
Wait, you can buy 2 flat sheets?
I guess.
You can buy anything, man.
He's just cut the elastic. He just cuts them open.
I don't know.
Wait, what? What?
I'd have to ask him. I don't know.
What? Thanks everybody again for supporting us over at patreon.com/Nextlander. We'd appreciate it. We thank you very much. Like we said, Watchcast, Ramblecast. We're gonna have a grab bag coming up on tomorrow, as at the time of this recording. Maybe you'll see some Gollum. I don't know.
Maybe you'll see some Street Fighter.
Maybe you'll see some Street Fighter. I don't know. Well, no, I don't think you will see some Street Fighter.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But maybe you'll see some Gollum.
All right.
Maybe you'll see some Street Fighter on Friday. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. That's the great thing about humans running the show. We're imperfect.
We'll see.
We make weird decisions.
Yeah. You don't want an AI generating our content.
No, definitely not.
You want us making these mistakes.
Unpredictable, but not in a creepy way, more like in a sad way.
Yeah.
Welcome to the unpredictive text generation that we do, that we call this here podcast. Thanks everybody for supporting us. Go support unions and the people you love, and keep everybody employed who's making great content out there as we kind of steer blindly into these uncharted waters of everything. Mm-hmm. Be good out there. Be healthy. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Alex. And we'll be back next week.